Yes. So if you see here, right, there is actually a video on how to actually like step by step.
So this documentation is also done by the BA, right?
What is that, Ali?
So this documentation is also done by the BA.
Yes, yes. For if you develop any kind of
Yeah.
application, end-to-end documentation, you only have to do. See,
No, I mean,
every
I
single word
mean,
what's on the website, right? You're going to get a requirement from them.
no. So, I mean, what I'm trying to ask is, as you said, that those frequently asked questions was for end users, right?
Hmm.
So you are the one who's thinking as an end user and preparing those questions for the customers, right?
Correct, correct. It's like a user manual, right? And some product
Yeah.
you develop, that you have to, and not only for this application, in any application, you'll have
Mhm.
a end user manual that BA has to create. How to, like, for example, here we have a video, no? How to like process it. They added a video here. So it can be a video, or you can be like doing it in statements. For example, step one, scan it. Step two, what to do. Step three, what to do. So that you can do it. Or like, for example, like mobile check deposit, frequent questions, all this like documentation perspective. Yes, you'll be the person responsible for doing all
For
this
it,
documentation.
so even for the video, whatever video they made, you have to assess the video before they launch it, right?
Correct, correct.
Okay. Okay.
Because they will do the so video, you will they'll be doing it and it will be given to you, but linking and all, you have to like actually go through the video. We are not going out of compliance, because here we are giving them promises it will be available the next business day, but here we have told that it will not be available during like weekends, right? Do you see that mismatch?
Yeah. Yeah.
Here what they showing is, I'll tell you what they are promising.
Yeah, I saw that. That's why I asked,
Yeah,
like, we have to review it, right, before they publish it.
correct. They are like,
Yeah.
funds are generally available the next business day means, generally if they added the but attorney is very very nice here. See, generally means they are not saying will be available. You see that? Funds
Yeah.
will be available. They didn't do will be. They're saying
Yeah.
that are generally available. This is very crucial, because this is what is, if we are putting some ad on the website and people are like just seeing that ad and they assume things, and then they're going to do, and then they're like, oh, I'm struck, and they can, and people in business, right, they really need the funds maybe the next business day, and you're telling that it will not be processed, it's weekend, it's holidays, it will not be processed. They'll be like, why don't you say that earlier? I would have done something different, no? So here they very clearly they didn't add will be available. They're saying generally will be available. But in the most frequent asked questions, they have listed here, right? So especially banking and healthcare, we have to be very careful with every word that we are showing to the end customers. They can sue you guys. I mean, you in the sense the Bank of America. So we have to be very careful, and you are not taking responsibility for all these keywords. So you will review it, but ideally who will be the responsible person is the business owners, right? He'll be the one responsible. But you have to tell them, since they are non-technical people, you'll be saying them, see here, there'll be a video and you are going to give us that video. Please be very careful with every single word in that video, and also like whatever you're going to display it, right? Please review everything. You're going to get sign off from them. Of course you're going to do the documentation, but don't get attached to like you are the primary stakeholder, right? Someone else, if there is any issue, someone is responsible. You are not responsible, because you have clearly got sign off from that person. But documentation, yes, you will do it and review with them. Any kind of like all these advertisements, yes, you will review with them. But for everything you will get sign off. I don't want you to do assume things and do, and then tomorrow in production if there is an issue, like then as a team everybody will be responsible, right? Then you have to show them proof that they signed off on all these requirements. So documentation is key, and getting approval also is key thing before you start any kind of development, or if before the code is going to production, you have to get the sign off from the business owners. Okay, any other questions, guys, in today's class about the interview process, about defining in scope, out of scope? Lucia,
Yes. Yeah.
any questions, Lucia?
Um, yeah, I'm okay. I'm okay for all
Eh,
the explanation.
okay,
Very clear.
okay.
Thank you.
Santoshi,
Hey Pradeepa, I'm okay.
you're okay, you're able to
Mhm.
understand, right?
Yes, today I'm okay, Pradeepa. Thanks for
Okay, so
checking.
and then what about Rufina? Rufina, do you understand this in scope, defining in scope and out of scope? What is in scope? What is out of scope?
Yes, ma'am. I just missed the first 10 minutes of class. I will just go through the videos together.
Hmm.
And
Okay. Sai Dinesh, what about you? Do you understand what defining in scope, out of scope? If the interview they ask you, define in scope, out of scope, will you be able
Yeah,
to tell them?
yeah, I got it, Pradeepa. Thank you.
Okay. So if in the interview they say that define in scope, out of scope from your project, and how do you like write in scope, out of scope, and also what is scope creep? Okay, very crucial question. What is scope creep? You have to tell them that in scope is something that the system will be able to do. What our developer can do, right? That is in scope. Okay. Here, let's say that what are the different types of documents? Oh, what is that? See here. In scope is like our mobile check deposit application will be able to process all these four different types of checks. That is in scope. And then out of scope is like all these different other checks. That is out of scope. And then also you need to say that what is scope creep? That's one important question. Scope creep is something that after you get sign off from them and your developer has started development, now they are adding requirements. Okay, now they're saying that, oh, we forgot that. I mean, can you add one more check? Or maybe can you add one more functionality to this? We sorry, we missed it. They're coming to you, and then you're like, they're increasing that scope, right? That is called a scope creep. Scope creep is nothing but increase in scope after sign off from business owners. This is like you designed the house, you're going to build a house, everything you signed off. Then during building the house, you're going and telling the architect or the constructor that, oh, I need to add another room here. Then they'll be like, okay, but we didn't agree to that earlier plan, right? We didn't do that. I already started the building. Now you're coming and saying that I need another room here, right? Same process, since because it's everything's in software, right? We don't understand the complexity of the scope creep. So your developer is already, and we are all working in an agile environment. Agile means like the timeline is either 2 weeks, 3 weeks, or 4 weeks maximum. We don't go beyond 4 weeks, right? So your team can have a 2 week sprint, 3 week sprint, or a 4 week sprint. And in that, for example, if your team is having 2 week sprint, 2 weeks means he's having only 10 days to develop that functionality, and your tester also has to test it, and we are going to deploy that particular code in production. Okay, so now in this 2 weeks when he's developing, and middle of that your business owners is coming and telling that, oh, the scope is now changed, now you need to add another check or something. That is called a scope creep. So most of the times First of all, you will get panicked because you don't know what and your developer always going to say no. That is taken for granted. He'll be like, no, I cannot do this. It's already Wednesday. I already coded. I'm already going to push the code to QA. Now you're coming and telling me to change the code. So he'll always be like, from a no perspective, he'll be saying, no, I cannot do it. Right. Now you have to handle a very like hyper business owner who's very enthusiastic about all this change in scope. He's going to come and tell you in the call that, I'm sorry, can you please add one more thing in the document? Can you please add one more functionality? This is a missed requirement. This is what I'm not aware of this process. I joined this company only 6 months back. They didn't give KT about this process. And the entire team, we forgot about this requirement. We are sorry about it. Can you please like add this? And you have to have a very nice face and tell them no. We agree to something, and our developer is already like in the phase of development. And when you come and give us all this increase in, and you will see it at almost every day, increase in scope. And don't underestimate the way of telling no. Okay, so you have to tell them no, and you have to tell them that I'm saying no because I cannot guarantee you anything today, because I have to discuss with my scrum team. And also like it's going to take money and time, because I don't know whether whatever new requirements that you're giving, like what is the complexity of the requirements, whether we will be able to do it or not. That's one thing. Or whether we have enough resources, time, and then also like priority, whether we have other projects that is having priority over your project, right? There is a lot of factors that we have to consider. So what you will say is like, I mean, we cannot accept this change in requirements now, but what we can do is like you submit a new intake request. Okay, submit a new intake request with all the requirements, and please submit it in Jira. Submit the intake request, and that's called as change control process. Okay, and I have to like discuss with my home scrum team, not only with my developer, with my scrum master, my product owner, and my manager, with my whole scrum team. Then I will come and give you maybe whether maybe we can do it or not, and if we can do it, what is the money involved and the timeline involved. We can do that. Okay, scope handling scope creep is a very big art for business owners, because so many people don't know how to handle the situation. Either they get very angry in the call. I'm talking about BAs. Okay, they get very angry in the call, and they'll be like, "Oh, you know what? But we got the sign off like 2 weeks back, but now you're coming and telling." Either they become very hyper, they become very angry, they don't know how to handle the situation, or the business owners can become really bossy, and they'll be like, "See, you are IT team, we are business team, and we are doing it for the sake of the company. And if we tell you, you have to do it." They will come and like boss around you, right? So we have to like deal this very well, be a very good professional, and then we have to use very nice words, very professional words. First of all, you have to be very calm and composed, and saying no is an art. Say no in such a way that they don't get offended. You have to say that I understand all these are missed requirements, I totally understand, but I'm not the one who can take decision for this, right? So there is a whole team behind this, and we have a process. This process is called as change control process, and you have to submit a new intake request, and then I have to discuss with my engineers, scrum master, product owner, and my manager, and we will come up with a new timeline and new like funding also, because if there's additional scope, this is additional funding. So we'll come up with that, and if you are able to approve all of that within this particular date, then we will let you know when can we go live. Of course, the go live date is going to get delayed, right? Because we are adding new requirements. Tell them that in a very professional way, what is the process we follow, because sometimes if you say direct no, I'll tell you what will happen. If you say that no, we cannot do it, they will escalate it to your staff VP. They'll be like, okay, this person is like, we went, this is state mandate, we got the requirement 2 days back and we didn't know about it. Now the BA is like very rude with us, is not accommodating what we are telling, and we want this to be done by this date. We have to go live. They're going to escalate your manager to your VP, and the VP has zero knowledge about what is happening in IT, right? He'll come and say about, he'll be like, oh, we want this to be done, we want this to be done, it has to be done, it has to be done, it has to be done. So as a lead BA, you don't want to get into trouble, you don't want your manager to be in trouble. And because there are a bunch of like 10 to 15 stakeholders that you're dealing for this particular project. They can do anything, you don't know. They can simply like escalate it even to the CEO also. You never know. It's just an email, right? Email ID. They can escalate to even to the CEO also. You don't know. Don't want to get into that kind of trouble. So you always have to deal with them professionally. Do not be, like I said, don't be angry with them. And you're going to say no in such a way that you're going to say that this is the process that we follow. I know how this is important to you, but our team has a process. Please follow that process. And I'm sure I'm going to give you a timeline or whether this can be done or not. Give them a date. Yeah, for today's call, I will maybe give you a complete information by tomorrow, by end of tomorrow, or by Friday morning. But this time, I will let you know whether this is possibility or not, and why. If not, why this is not a possibility. Why our team cannot do it. I will definitely tell you. So you have to be very patient with them. That's how you respond. And in the interview perspective, they will be asking you if you're having multiple requirements, and if your stakeholder is throwing you multiple requirements, and if they're going to constantly change the requirements. We know this is agile project. They're going to constantly change the requirements. But as a lead BA, how do you like control that? How do you have a strong process in place, and how do you overcome all the scope creep? So for that, you have to give them an example. For example, this is in scope, out of scope. And let's take a scenario of like business owners coming and saying that we need to add money orders to this. Then you have to tell them that it's going to be we have a process. That process is called change control process. Submit a new intake, and then maybe within like 24 hours we will come up with a new LOE and the timeline. And of course you will discuss with your team, and with everybody's like approval, you're going to give a timeline to the stakeholders. So number one thing is, do not give promise to the business owners without talking to your scrum team. Okay, don't think you are the lead BA, I know everything, and then don't give them a timeline, and then don't say this can be done or this cannot be done. Don't give them any promises. You take the requirements, tell them the process, discuss with your team, and then only you're going to give any kind of promises, that too with email. And then you have to tell them whether that date is going to be delayed or not. So this is how you're going to answer scope creep. Do you know what is scope creep? How do you handle scope creep? So that's the answer for scope creep. Okay, so any doubts on scope creep?
I have a question regarding scope creep.
Yes, Ali.
So when we are working with waterfall model, we take the scope at once, and then we get the sign off and we start working on the requirement, right? Like whatever requirement we have got from the stakeholders. But when we talk about agile methodologies, that means like, we keep taking requirements time to time from stakeholders. So if we are taking future requirements, do we still need to say that, we need to discuss with our team before we give the confirmation? Or when it comes to change control process, if we are working on any of the given requirement and then stakeholders asking us to change the requirement, then we need to discuss with our team before we give the confirmation.
So number one thing is like we are not gathering requirements from time to time for agile methodology. Okay, even for agile methodology, we are gathering all the requirements at once, and we are doing the development and testing in sprints.
Okay.
Okay, so when you get all the requirements, after all the solicitation sessions, you are gathering all the requirements, you are writing in BRDs or user stories, however you want, and you get the sign off. That's all. But
Okay.
to complete all the user stories, whether it's going to take 2 sprints, 3 sprints, 4 sprints, or 6 sprints, we don't know.
Okay. Why I asked this question is because when I was reading about the projects, there are some projects which are 2 years long or 3 years long.
Correct, correct.
In
We'll go
okay.
that by phases.
Okay.
Yeah, so we're not changing. So that's what is very crucial for you to get the sign off earlier, right? Before we start. Do not start development without getting any final requirements, right? So for example, for phase two, let's say that you have a project for 2 years. Let's say this mobile check deposit, we are going to roll out in all the 50 states. Maybe first 10 states in 6 months, then the 10 states in like maybe 20 states in another 6 months. We're going to roll out everything, this functionality in for 50 states in 2 years. Then Your requirements are not going to change state by state. Even if it's going to change state by state, you're going to define all that earlier itself. So we are going to gathering requirements, getting sign off, all that even for the next 2 years, mostly 99% it has to be done. But the problem is they don't give you accurate requirements, right? Because in 2 years, a lot of things can change, right? The market can
Yeah,
change, the government
exactly.
can change, the mandate rules can change, laws can change, anything can change, right? So like, for example, something like COVID hits, everything is going to change. So in that scenario, your priority will be like you have to again again the same change control process. For example, I'm fine 2021 March till March 19th, everything is going fine, and suddenly boom, everyone has to go to your home and then shut down everybody for the next 3 months. Just imagine like Bank of America, what kind of rules they have to shut their offices, everything has to be online, and then like nobody has to go to Bank of America office, and nobody actually has to go, right? Nobody can go outside also. So if something is shut down so like that overnight, and your IT team is responsible for doing or developing something in the next 1 month, that will be your top priority. Forget all the business requirements and everything. Okay, something emergency is coming, some virus came, we have to shut down all the offices. Nobody is allowed to go to office, no human is allowed even allowed to go on the road, everybody have to be in their home. Then in that case, you're going to do everything online, right? If you're going to convert that into an online, we need IT team support. If IT team has to be involved, deploy the code every day also. Every week, every Friday, we have to like deploy some new features. Then in that case, that will be the top priority. Whatever sign off you got for that project earlier for next 2 years, that will not even like be considered. So why we want that change control processes, we are doing as much as possible to get the requirements from them, but it depends upon like a lot of external factors too. And if the owners are coming and saying that we cannot have this online, we have to shut down this office, we are closing this region, that region, and everything has to be in this way, can you please develop it? Then yes, we have to do, we are working for them, right? We have to do it for them, but we cannot take all the pressure. Our developer cannot take all the pressure, and he cannot handle that in 2 weeks, right? So we have to establish a process. That's what I'm saying. So difference between waterfall and agile is, in agile we are going to accommodate. We are not saying, no, no, I cannot do this. We are working for them full time. We are getting salary. We are going to accommodate that requirement. But how, when, and what is the timeline? It is going to be the same timeline or different timeline? Or if it is a very crucial project and it has to be done in maybe 10 days, then you drop other projects too. See, I have 10 developers and I have 4 projects, and this project is very, very crucial for me, has high priority over other projects. Then our developer has to drop other projects too, right? Then their focus will be on only on this project. So when it comes to agile, it's not like waterfall. It's not at all like your requirements are like, even though if you get sign off, your requirements are constantly going to change. That's why we have this model, in sprint model. But maximum 99% try to get all the requirements before the start of your sprint, and maybe for the next 4 or 5 sprints have all the requirements, user stories in ready status. But if the business owners are going to come and give you new requirements like this, all this scope creep is happening, please tell them the process. That's all you can do as a BA. You cannot have the whole control over the team and also the stakeholders, right? And also the environmental factors. So we have to think all about that.
Pradeep, I have a quick question.
Mhm.
For the like agile environment, because we gathering the requirement in the front, and then we will doing the requirement during the sprints. For each sprint, say we have like a 10 user stories. Are those like user stories need to be signed off by the business owner as well?
Yeah, so if you take any project, right, all the business, I mean, user stories are not signed off, but the BRD, right, all that should be signed off before even you start your first sprint.
But in the agile environment for each sprint,
Each sprint,
like
no, each sprint you're not required to take sign off from them. No.
okay.
Just the business requirements, you're going to take the sign off, okay? Technical requirements, I mean, like whatever is the top priority user stories for the next 2 to 3 sprints, it's already in ready status. So our developer, we will groom that every user story in sprint review, right? So they'll be fine doing it. But you have to get sign off only for the business, that BRD or maybe that high level epics or something, you will get the sign off, but not every single sprint you're not going to get sign off.
Okay, in the like a sprint backlog,
Mhm.
say we have like a 10 user stories. So who is deciding the 10 user story in the first sprint? Is the development team or the business owner?
No, they don't. So they will tell you the essential like functionality, but from a user story level, you will design. For example, login functionality. They say that login has to go first, then that is high priority, right? That is essential.
Okay.
So they'll give you an idea, but from a functionality level, your developer will say whether because if your functionality has some dependency on other things, then that cannot go live.
Okay, thank you.
You got it? So they'll give some idea, but from a functionality level, from a technical perspective, whether that can go live first or not, your developer will be able to say it.
Thank you.
Okay, good. Yeah, so I think we are good for today, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Thank you.